Golden Black Radio is brought to you by Academy Sports and Outdoors. At Academy Sports and Outdoors, we carry all the gear you need from the top brands, all at prices you'll love. And now shopping at the Academy is more convenient than ever. We offer free assembly on in-store purchases of most bikes and grills, plus free and easy curbside pickup on academy.com orders. Want to save even more every day? Open and use an Academy Sports and Outdoors credit card to get 5% off future purchases when you're approved. Save time and money at Academy Sports and Outdoors and have fun out there. Welcome into another edition of Gold and Black Radio presented by Academy Sports and Outdoors. I'm your host, Derek Schultz, in a different polo shirt than in that commercial spot, magically. We've made it through the dog days of summer, and this is our last non-game day week show for the next 3 months. Kind of hard to believe right here on GBR. And I know our football gurus and Tom Dienhart and Dub Jellison are excited about that. They're going to join the show here in just a few minutes to talk about Purdue's last-minute preparations, and we're going to focus a lot on the quarterbacks and when we can finally get a decision as far as QB1 is concerned. But first, here are all the fantastic Gold and Black sponsors that make this show possible, including Purdue Federal Credit Union, a proud partner of Purdue Athletics and the official credit card for Purdue fans. Boiler Up, East End Grill and Ripple and Company, two distinctive bistros across the street from one another on the far end of Main Street, the perfect place for your next event. The Whitaker Inn. This Midwestern oasis is perfect for a relaxing staycation or weekend getaway. Escape from the ordinary at the Whitaker Inn. And the Purdue Institute for Cancer Research. The Purdue Institute for Cancer Research has a history of innovation and one goal for the future: defeat cancer. Purdue brings together world-class Boilermaker scientists from across the university, conducting cutting-edge research that uncovers new ways to prevent, diagnose, and treat cancer. With your support, cancer research saves lives. Join the fight and donate to the Purdue Institute for Cancer Research today. GoldenBlack.com football writers Tom Dienhart and Dub Jellison join us now on the show. And guys, look, I listened to the Saturday simulcast with Alan, so I want to make sure that, I did my journalistic integrity here. I know, Tom, you and Dub are actual journalists. I'm just a guy that throws on headphones in my basement to do this show. But I wanted to just kind of focus. I know you had kind of talked some general season outlook things, and there'll be more time for those. But I wanted to focus specifically on the quarterback position. And Tom, we'll start with you. When do you think we'll have a decision there? And will we get a definitive decision at QB1 from Barry Odom and his staff?
I think we will eventually. We spoke to quarterback coach Darren Henshaw today, and he was pressed for details. We want answers. We can handle the truth. Tell us who the quarterback's going to be. I know they're so sick of us nagging them and asking them who's going to be the quarterback. You know what, Derek? I think deep down they know who their quarterback is. Mm-hmm. And, Dub was at practice today with me, and we watched the first team reps, the second team reps, and there was just one quarterback. From what I recall, they took all the reps with the first team offense, and that was number 15, Ryan Brown. So for what it's worth, there's that, right? But I think they know who their quarterback is. I think they probably knew for a while who their quarterback was going to be. They want to develop all these guys as well as they can for obvious reasons. Now the question, Derek, when will we find out? When will this hand be revealed? When will the great mystery be solved as to who's going to be Purdue's starting quarterback? 4 more practices this week. We have a mock game on Saturday over in Ross-Ade Stadium. Then it's game week, I think. How about this? I'm going to say a week from Monday. Well, on August 25th, the first day of classes, the first official Barry Odom press conference. I think that day, that's going to be the biggest shebang. He unveils who his starting quarterback is. What do you think, Dub?
Yeah, I would agree. That lines up with the timeline that I was thinking about. And I think you kind of have to at that point. And like you mentioned, Ryan Brown was out there a lot with the first team today. And he certainly appears to be the lead horse in that race.
Is there any upside, guys, to playing this close to the vest? Personally, I don't see as much in 2025. Word just gets around. It feels like whatever you're trying to keep under wraps doesn't even have to be your football quarterback decision. But do you believe that could be a possibility that they even go all the way up into Ball State game week, and it's not until that day at kickoff that boom, hey, it's Ryan Brown, or hey, it's Singleton, or whoever it ends up being?
They could take it right up to pregame warm-ups, and we have to wait to see who Ryan Brown takes snaps with in warm-ups. But like you said, these quarterbacks, it's not like you're talking about differing styles, right? For the most part, Malachi Singleton and Ryan Brown are pretty similar from a skill set standpoint as far as being dual threat athletic guys, right? It's not like you're going to throw a big monkey wrench into a coaching staff's game plan if you have to prepare for one and not the other. So I don't know if there's much of a schematic edge or a strategic edge in waiting that long, Derek. Like I said, just because their skill sets are pretty similar.
If we're to assume that Malachi Singleton is not going to be the starter and not win the job, was there one area that ultimately held him back? Dub, I don't know. You could chime in on that.
Yeah, I personally, and we've watched practice for the better part of a few months, going back to spring ball, but I just feel like Ryan Brown is a much more polished passer out of the pocket. Malachi Singleton had some really good moments last year at Arkansas, and he's very dynamic with his legs. But in just watching the offense, it feels like things flow more smoothly with Ryan Brown under center. And I had kind of believed that Singleton was the superior runner. Chops Harkless, we talked to him today, and he said that Ryan Brown is the most difficult guy to get to for the Purdue defense in practice. So that's something to consider. But like Tom said, they're super similar. I just think Ryan Brown has the edge as a pocket passer.
And no offense to Brown. I mean, I like Ryan Brown. He's a perfectly capable player, but here's a kid, Tom. He had no major offers coming out of high school, no other major offers. He was the backup on one of the worst teams in FBS last year. He was gone the entire spring, yet he comes back and he usurps Singleton almost immediately. At least it felt that way. It felt like he was the clubhouse leader again the second that he came back on campus. I mean, this is still a Big Ten program, and other quarterbacks out there must have known that there was going to be an opportunity here. Hey, I could come in and start for a Big Ten team. Maybe the answer to this question is yes, but is this the best Purdue could do at quarterback, this depth chart?
I guess I've thought about that from time to time this past off season when I'm laying in bed, just kind of letting things run through my mind. That's how bored I get sometimes. What was the thought process in trying to obtain a portal quarterback? When they got here in December, Singleton was like the very first commit, I believe. You either have to say I'm going to go big, man. And if you want a legitimate, proven starter, what's that cost? $1 million a year, maybe $1 million
at least
a year.
Baseline, yeah.
It'll cost you a lot of money. So I guess the decision was Purdue wasn't going to go that direction. They were going to just trying to find guys that they were familiar with and could work with, that skill sets that fit what they wanted to do offensively. And I think that's what they did here. So, these guys are largely unpolished. I mean, you talked about Ryan Brown's resume, right? Largely unpolished, just 2 career starts. Talked about Malachi Singleton. Dub did. He's never started a game in college. He's played a little bit. And then you got Evans Chuba, who's never taken a snap in college. And then Bennett Meredith, of course, has, I think, the 1 start. So, yeah, and this whole position's got a gigantic question mark over it. We talked about that a month or two ago. I'm sure everybody hates us hammering on the quarterback, but this is football. A quarterback's got to be a good ball player, and it's a big question for Purdue, and largely because of the lack of experience at that spot.
Do you think that even if Brown is the dedicated starter, we'll see Singleton sprinkled in? I mean, Tom, you mentioned it's not really a change of pace because their skill sets are so so similar, but is there a chance we will see Singleton sprinkled in there at times?
I think so. I'll be interested to see what Dub thinks, but he is a dynamic athlete, like Dub said. He's a solid passer. Again, he had a big win. He helped engineer against Tennessee last year in Fayetteville. He's not afraid of the big moment. And like I said, he's got skills that can probably win you football games. So if you're a smart football coach, is there some way you can A, keep him engaged, and B, use his skills to help maybe get you a key first down in the second half, in the fourth quarter, maybe get you a touchdown in the red zone in a big game. So, yeah, maybe we will see some type of a special package that plays that he really excels at, and the staff can utilize. What do you think, Dub?
Yeah, I would agree wholeheartedly. Potentially putting him in the red zone. And things of that nature, like you just talked about. I think that's the perfect way to, like you say, keep him engaged. keep his hat in the ring and at least give off the illusion like you're going to do something different offensively, and put that doubt into the defensive coordinator's minds.
What area around the quarterback, guys, do you believe will improve the most from last year? And I know that's not saying much because improving from last year is a baseline expectation with as poor as they were. But if you had to pick one position group, I guess which one are you the most optimistic about on the Purdue offense right now?
I like the line a lot. I think last year's line was solid. I think this year's line looks like it's got a solid 2 deep to it. Big issue last year was just the lack of explosive ability, especially in the pass game, down the field, right, going over the top of a defense. The lack of speed, the lack of, I just think overall attention to detail at that position really hurt this team last year. I thought Hudson Card could have been a much better quarterback. It wasn't all on Hudson Card. So I think there is improvement there. I want to think there's improvement at receiver. They've been raving about Michael Jackson, number 2. We like Nitro Tuggle. He's already probably got a gigantic fan club with 4 catches, 1 pass here at Purdue so far. Selling number 0 jerseys like crazy. I like Chauncey Magwood. I know Dub likes Corey Smith, but again, I guess I don't want to say every position on offense, but I'm going to go back to offensive line. I think between Tanona and Coley at your tackles and St. John, and I'm going to say Ethan Trent at guard and Joyner at center, I think they could have a pretty solid O-line to start the year.
Do you align with that, Dub, or is there a different position group that jumped out to you?
Yeah, I think Tom and I are both high on the offensive line and think that they could be a stout group. I've kind of been enamored with the running backs and the emergence of Antonio Harris. You looked at last year and Devin Mockabee was kind of up and down. You had Reggie Love in there as the number 2 guy. He never really popped. He was never really able to get going like Tyrone Tracy was a couple years ago. I think Antonio Harris could be that Tyrone Tracy type guy. And just in terms of production, and obviously they're different players, but I've been very impressed with him throughout camp. And you also got guys like Malachi Thomas and Jaheim Merriweather who are also going to factor into things. But I think the now ex walk-ons from Southern Indiana could be a formidable duo out of the Purdue backfield.
We're talking with Tom Dienhart and Dub Jellison here. Go ahead, Tom. You had something else?
Yeah, real quick, a guy, I know maybe I'm jumping in too quick, but maybe the most important guy on offense is somebody we haven't even uttered their name yet. Number 81, the tight end, George Burren. That's a guy Dub and I watch every day. People watching this are well aware of his skill set. They know his history with not staying healthy, but that's a guy some people could think is the best player on the team. And I think without a doubt, he's got to stay healthy because he could be a real problem for defenses down the field, across the middle, in the red zone, you name it. He's a dynamic athlete, and he's what they call guys a difference maker, the kind of guy that defensive coordinator is going to circle with that red Sharpie and want to know where he's at every snap.
Speaking of him, Tom, did Odom and his staff make him a priority coming in right away? Is that why he's stuck around? Because I think everybody has thought highly of his talent before, but as you had mentioned, his availability hasn't been great so far.
Yeah, I'm sure they told him that they want to keep him. I think maybe there's some family situation around him that sort of kept him tethered to Indiana and West Lafayette. That may have been as much a factor as anything at this point. So I'm sure the coaching staff is thrilled that he decided to stay because after George, that tight end room is pedestrian. I'll just say pedestrian, okay? We'll see how it pans out with Christian Moore, Christian Earls. I think Dub and I both have been a little impressed of late by the tight end from Auburn. So, yeah, we'll have to see where it all goes. But, again, I think it's imperative that George stay healthy and be every bit the player people think he can be.
It's Gold and Black Radio. We're talking with Tom Dienhart and Dub Jellison on this Tuesday edition of the show. Let's talk kind of national news. And I think I'm convinced these are just like trial balloons that are being floated out there because some of them just seem to be so outlandish and so ridiculous. But I'm sure many folks have seen and reacted to the latest Big Ten idea, hypothesis. don't even know what to call it, 24 or 28 team playoff. There would be automatic qualifiers, and then I'm not going to get into all of the weeds of it. But what's your reaction to that? Dub, let's start with you. I just, we talk about devaluing the regular season, and I think there's a line there. I'm not sure where exactly it is, but I'm pretty sure it comes before you get to 28 teams.
Yeah, I've gone so back and forth on this as they've expanded the playoffs from 2 to 4 to now 12, right? I'm a football junkie. I know Tom Dienhart's a football junkie. He can't get enough of it. So I love more playoff football. I think it gives teams more of an opportunity to stay in it later in the year. And I know it's not, the do or die of this is a make or break game for Georgia and Alabama. Whoever wins this game is going to the college football player for the national championship game, or so be it, under previous formats. But I think having a full December of college football, playoff football would be an amazing thing. And I might be in the minority there because, like you mentioned, it does kind of devalue the regular season a bit. But, I think in college sports, games in Mackey are sold out in November. A lot of these SEC games that were Alabama's playing Austin Peay are sold out in late August and early September. So I think the fan bases are always going to be there. I think it's more just from a casual fan perspective, a viewing perspective, that it would really impact it. But 24 might be a little much. I can get on board with 16 because I think they'll just keep going up and up and up and up until we got 64 potentially.
Yeah,
but
and that's the problem. It's not a could they do it? They could do it, and we'd go and we'd watch, and this show would talk about those games. I think the question is, Tom, should they do it? Right?
Someone told me just because you can doesn't mean you should.
Yeah.
I was told that as an 8-year-old, right? And that more isn't always better. Although I usually think more is better, but no, more is not usually better. And in this case, I don't think more is better. If I don't want to go down a big rabbit hole here, but I'm of the notion of just blow everything up, get rid of the Big Ten, the SEC, come together like the AFL and the NFL did in 1970, merge, redo divisions, intermingle teams, make it all geographic, just like the NFL. The NFL has already laid everything out for you. You don't have to reinvent the wheel here. Just follow the NFL template. Yes, this is pro football. I'm sorry to tell you. Yes, it is. And then have like eight playoff teams from each conference. Have a whatever you want to call the conferences, call them and have 8 playoff teams. Set it up like that. The more teams, like Dub said, you can keep involved deep into the season. Just remember when you're watching those NFL games in late December and the pregame shows are talking about the playoff scenarios and how your head just spins. Oh, if these guys tie, these guys win, they're going blah, blah. That's great. That's awesome. More teams are involved, more fans are engaged. And again, 16 seems to be for me a sweet spot. But again, I would just blow everything up. They need to all work together with this. Everybody's so worried about protecting their turf, and there's usually more for everybody if you work together. And they could just blow up these TV contracts and just negotiate the deals like the NFL does. I don't know what they're doing. They need a commissioner, they need leadership, but nobody's going to give up their little chunk of the turf. But again, we'll see where it goes. But I guess long story short, that's too many, Derek. But I'm a guy who would like to see him go to at least 16 here. And again, I don't like guaranteeing conferences bids. I want to get rid of committees. Can you imagine the NFL using a committee to pick playoff teams? Think how that sounds absurd, doesn't it? It sounds absolutely insane. College football uses some committee. I want to see you earn your playoff spot based on where you finish in divisions, just like the NFL.
If it makes you feel better, Tom, I know Dub doesn't remember this because he's not old enough. We used to have a system where the top 2 teams usually wouldn't even play each other, and we just vote and say, Penn State or Nebraska, right? They're not going to play each other because, God forbid, we don't want to blow up the Rose Bowl or the Orange Bowl.
Yeah. God, don't even get me going on the bowl games. Those bowl games, letting the bowl games dictate things, just in the Rose Bowl especially. God bless the Rose Bowl. I love the venue. I love the game. Come on, man. They can't let these bowl games wag the dog, so to speak.
Dub, one thing I will say, and I'm glad that you played devil's advocate, and I'm just glad that we have Dub on the Golden Black team to offer like a fresh, youthful perspective instead of the curmudgeon-y old like me and Tom and Brian being stubborn about everything. If they did go to 28, the one way you could bring me on board is give an auto bid to the Sun Belt and to the MAC. Like, these teams are all supposed to be competing for the same championship, right? So if you're going to expand it that far, I would watch App State go to Alabama for a first-round game. I'd watch that. I'd watch Akron play at the Horseshoe. They might lose 56-10, but I would, for like the first quarter and a half, I would watch that game.
I was going to say, you're going to be watching for 15 minutes.
Yeah, right. But I would watch. I just think if we're going to operate under the lie that those teams also have an opportunity to win a championship, then why not? Why not include them into an expand? I mean, you're including 20% of FBS teams, right? Already with 20-something teams. So why not, if you're going to go to 28, let the little guys get their little tiny fraction of the pie?
Yeah, I get that, but and you're always going to have the little guy fighting, right? Even though it hasn't gone well for him in the college football playoff. I can't think of any games where it was even particularly close when maybe a group of 5 school or even a Power 5 school that's kind of struck lightning in the bottle quickly emerged. Besides TCU beating Michigan a couple years ago, but yeah, I mean, I'm on board for letting the little guys have a seat at the table too.
Mm-hmm. We'll see. I mean, we'll see how it plays out. 12 team was fun last year. I'll give them that. And if they go to 16, I'm sure that'll be fun too. But I think we need to just kind of pump the brakes on. Let's walk before we run here when it comes to all this. Purdue football season right around the corner. If you're still trying to learn all the names and faces of the newcomers for the 2025 season, Tom and Dub have you covered. Their coverage is the best of the best. Can be found right here at goldenblack.com and on social media, so follow along for updates. Gentlemen, next time we talk, it'll be game week. Thank goodness for that. Enjoy wrapping up practice, and thanks again for coming on the show.
Thank you, Derek.
Thanks, Derek.
That's Tom and Dub, and that is our show, Golden Black Radio, this Tuesday, brought to you by our friends at Purdue Federal Credit Union, the official credit card for Purdue fans. East End Grill and Ripple & Company, 2 distinctive bistros across the street from one another on the far end of Main Street in Lafayette. The Whitaker Inn, for unparalleled comfort and cuisine, visit the Whitaker Inn. Purdue Institute for Cancer Research, which has a history of innovation and one goal for the future: defeat cancer. Join the fight and donate to the Purdue Institute for Cancer Research today. And on the doorstep of a new season, do not forget, hit the like and subscribe buttons. Of course, you can leave a positive review. Brian Newbert suggested if it's not positive, you shouldn't leave it at all. But hey, leave a, you don't like my forehead or whatever else. Reviews are good. Feedback is good. Constructive criticism even can sometimes be good. Whatever podcast platform you're utilizing, we would appreciate a 5-star rating and a review as well. Also, if you haven't already, subscribe to goldenblack.com, of course, but subscribe to our channels too, not just the site itself where you get Tom and Dub and Brian Newbert and Carm and the whole deal, but subscribe to us on YouTube and enable alerts as well. New highlights and videos are uploaded regularly on all of the Golden Black channels, and not just the podcast platforms and the site and Knucklehead Central and places like that. But until next week, game week, we're excited. You're excited. Hope springs eternal, and we'll talk more Boilermakers sports on the next edition of Golden Black Radio here at goldenblack.com. Have a great week, everybody.